we are just shy of 1 year from last January 6th, and we've been doing a bit of a review of different aspects of this over the course of this week. Let's talk now about the effect that event and the year after it have had on Donald Trump's control of the GOP, which I think is a somewhat complicated story. But some of those who in the immediate aftermath of the riot were very critical of him and were at least seemingly telegraphing that was the line that couldn't be crossed. They were done with him, have changed. As we alluded to earlier in the show, Lindsey Graham had said, "Today all I can say is count me out. Enough is enough." I guess they cut off the microphone before we could hear him finish by saying, "Enough is enough." Except if like a month or two goes by and then he wants to play golf, because then that would be great. Golf is enough. I guess maybe that's what he was thinking. Kevin McCarthy called on Trump to accept his share of responsibility for the deadly violence. Trump never did that, but Kevin McCarthy seemingly doesn't care anymore. And so look, Graham was back golfing with him soon. McCarthy was traveling down to Mar-a-Lago. And look, even right after the violence, so many, 147 Republicans voted to overturn the election results. And I will say once again, totally pointlessly, I'll say it a million times, the fact that we cannot all at least admit in lockstep that is a bad thing, that they tried to reverse the results of an election, is absolute insanity. And there are so many people, some of whom still they're respected, they have audiences who cannot come out and unambiguously say that. And I think it's incredibly pathetic.
Not only can they not say it, but they also have to find this other angle that Peter Navarro has tried to carve out to say that, we tried to usurp the election through political means and trying to manipulate some laws and rules and regulations and anything we could. But the violence is what changed our plan to try to politically usurp democracy and make sure it doesn't take hold and continue in this country. Okay, yeah, sure. It's a good alternative, Peter.
Yeah, seemingly the violence is bad only in that he thinks it stopped their political coup that they were doing. And he described it. We're not gonna play the Ari Melber stuff, but I think that's what you're alluding to. He just described, they cloak it in, well, we believe there was issues with the vote. It's just not true. Peter Navarro can say that however many times he wants. His view on this is irrelevant. Election officials have looked into it, they haven't found it. The Supreme Court decided not to get involved. Judges who looked at the evidence which was provided in literally dozens of cases decided that there was nothing there. Peter Navarro's opinion doesn't matter on that. Their cloak for this is nonsensical. The plan is obvious. We didn't like the results of the election. We thought maybe we could overturn it. Now, of course, again, as with everything, it's one of the themes of the last season of TDR is this is not like some sort of standard that they are describing to us that, no, we think it's acceptable that if you overturn elections. They're not okay with Democrats doing that. They just believe they should be able to. They were stopped in doing it. I don't think that the violence is necessarily what stopped it. But that doesn't mean that they won't do it again. And the fact that they're going literally on MSNBC to describe, shucks, we almost got it a year out. If you believe that they have been chastened or if they've been disincentivized in doing this, they're worried about legal ramifications. I don't know how much clearer they can be that they are not experiencing any of that. They are eager for another try. And every day we get closer to round 2 on this thing.
The question is then now that Trump has decided not to have his address for the anniversary, somebody's gonna say something. They can't just stay silent and let the entire narrative go tomorrow about the reality. They've been pushing a false reality, some fantasy scenario for a year now. Someone else has to come out and stand for the president, former president, and make sure that the lessons continue. It could be MTG, it could be Gates, it could be any of these normal sycophants that are gonna carry his water, but somebody's gonna do it. I'm expecting that.
Yeah, I would be perfectly happy for tomorrow to go by and it's just nothing. I don't want January 6th to become some sort of holiday for good or bad. I would love to just move on and not need it to be significant going on in the future. But for that to happen, it has to not be indicative of a new shift in normalization of political violence and violent or non-violent attempts to overturn election results. I would be fine for that. We're gonna have our show tomorrow. By the way, Anna Kasparian is gonna be joining me, so that's a pretty big get for the show for tomorrow. And we're certainly gonna talk about it. I would love to be able to move on, but we can't do that for reasons we're describing here. The fact that this insurrection index has identified 1,000 US public figures who aided the effort to overturn the election. Like those 147 congresspeople, that's a tiny part of it. It was in many states around the country. Most of those people are still in positions of power, and there have been multiple elections since then for secretaries of state, heads of election boards and things. That number would be far higher now than it was then. So I want to be able to move on from this and just go back to, you're running an election. If you win, you take power. If you don't, that's it. But that's just not the country that we live in right now.
And they're gonna continue to pursue it. Think about 2 years down the road, this is gonna become further and further from people's immediate memory, and they're gonna keep trying to change that narrative. And we know how Republicans and conservatives do when it comes to history that they don't like. They like to hide it, they like to not teach it, they like to have a different version of it being told to everyone. So be prepared to keep pushing back on that.
Yeah, 100%.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.